That snowstorm night in Montana was so cold, I could no longer tell if I was alive. I was 18 years old, lost in a world of white, hungry, numb, and ready to let the snow swallow me whole. Then, in the middle of death, I saw a flicker of light, a faint golden glow, shining through the window of a lonely cabin. When the door opened, I met Eliza Moore, 40 years old, reddish-brown hair, eyes weary but burning like the last ember of a dying fire. She pulled me inside, placed me by the fireplace, and the moment her fingertips brushed my skin, I knew destiny had begun. From that night on, my life took a turn I could never come back from. A forbidden love, a town's judgment, and a truth no one dared to tell. If you believe love can bloom, even in a snowstorm, drop a cold below, because this story is only getting started. She sat me close to the fire and wrapped an old wool blanket around me. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and pine resin. I trembled, not just from the cold, but from something else, something strange and uncontrollable. Eliza did not ask who I was. She did not question me. She simply poured a bowl of hot soup, placed it in front of me, and said softly, "Eat. You have to live first." Her voice was hoarse, yet soothing, calming even the howling wind outside. I looked around the cabin, small, tidy, filled with hanging bundles of dried herbs, a few worn-out Bibles, and a dusty mandolin resting by the wall. I thought, if angels truly existed, maybe they looked like her, tired, yet kind. That night, I slept beside the fireplace while she sat reading by the oil lamp. In that haze between waking and sleep, I felt her gaze drift toward me, a look I could never forget. The next morning, I thought I would leave, but when I opened the door, the snow was still falling thick, erasing every path. She only said, "Stay until the sky clears." I did not know then if I stayed because of the blizzard or because of her eyes. She turned, caught my gaze, and without a word, placed the bowl back into my hands. Our fingers brushed, and for a brief second, both of us froze. She pulled away, coughed lightly, a faint blush on her cheeks. I thought I would stay one night, but one night became a week, then a month. She never asked me to leave, and I never brought it up again. The townsfolk called her the Witch of the Oak Woods. They said she healed people with weeds, that she lived alone after her husband's death, that God had long abandoned her. They kept their distance, feared her, despised her, because she represented what terrified them most, a woman who lived free. But they knew nothing. They never heard her voice as she hummed softly while hanging laundry. They never saw the gentle smile she gave when I told my wandering stories. They never noticed the way her eyes softened whenever I chopped firewood or fixed the barn roof. And surely they never sensed the silence that grew between us, a silence so heavy that one misplaced breath could turn it into fire. That summer arrived like fire. The heat was so fierce it felt like the air itself was melting, yet I kept working outside, ploughing the soil, building fences, patching the stable roof. Eliza told me to rest, but I could not. I owed her my life, and more than that, I wanted to be near her. She would often sit on the porch, wearing a straw hat, quietly sewing. Every time I looked up, her eyes darted away, but I knew she was watching. One afternoon, while we were fixing the barn door, our hands brushed. Both of us froze. "Eliza," I whispered. She looked at me, amber eyes trembling in the sunlight. No words came out, only our breaths tangled in the sweltering air. That evening, she sang on the porch, her voice deep and sad like the wind through the pines. I sang along, our shoulders barely touching. She murmured, "Do not do this, Luke. They will never forgive me." I answered, If this is a sin, I accept it. There. She fell silent, but when my hand found hers, she did not pull away. Rumours spread through the town faster than the wind. They called Eliza the witch who seduced a boy, and me a fool under her spell. One morning, Reverend Miller came with Harold Crane, the greedy land dealer, with a smile sharp as a knife. Miss Moore, the Reverend said coldly, this town cannot tolerate sin. Eliza stood tall, her gaze calm. If your mercy is that fragile, Reverend, then I have no need of it. And Harold sneered. You took in a strange boy. Who would believe you are pure? I stepped forward, staring straight at him. I am here because I chose to be. The crowd murmured, and Reverend Miller clutched his Bible as if ready to hurl it at us. That night, a storm rolled in. The wind screamed through the roof, and rain hammered the walls. We climbed up to patch the leaks, and when she slipped, I caught her. A flash of lightning lit her face. Our eyes met. Eliza, I whispered. She trembled. We should not, but I cannot stop. The kiss erupted between thunderclaps, and nothing was the same after that. I tasted the rain, the salt of her tears, and the ache of loneliness that had lived in her too long. When we finally pulled apart, our breaths were ragged. She leaned her forehead against my shoulder and whispered, Luke, I do not deserve to be loved, not after everything I have lost. I do not love you because you deserve it, I said. I love you because I cannot not love you. The storm outside roared, but inside that wooden cabin, another storm raged even louder. We fell to the floor trembling, breathless, two souls finally brave enough to touch what they had always feared. When only the sound of rain remained, Eliza lay still, her hand brushing the scar along my ribs. What have we done? She whispered. We have lived, I answered. And maybe, for the first time, we have lived for real. No, but when the lightning flashed across her face, I saw the fear return in her eyes. Peace, I realized, never stays for long. People said they hated Eliza for moral reasons. But the truth was, they wanted her land. Especially Harold Crane, the slick land dealer with that polite smile sharp enough to cut. He had heard rumours of a silver vein running beneath Eliza's land, and like all greedy men, he believed what he wanted to believe. Since he could not take it by force, Harold chose another way to destroy her reputation. He told his wife, Martha, to keep a record of sinful evidence, moments that seemed harmless. An afternoon when I chopped firewood for Eliza, an evening when she listened to me play the mandolin, a casual touch, a shared smile, all of it was written down, twisted into guilt. His plan was simple, to have Eliza declared insane and locked in an asylum. And me, I would become the victim of her temptation. A dirty game, but one that made cruel sense. That morning, the sky was grey, as if warning us something was about to break. Martha came to the house, clutching her notebook, her face pale. I cannot do this anymore, she said, voice shaking. I wrote down everything Harold told me to, but I cannot keep lying. Eliza quietly invited her to sit. No anger, no surprise, only silence. Martha confessed everything, the plot, the false statements, the bribed judge. When she finished, tears streamed down her cheeks. I used to think you were sinful, she sobbed. But the truth is, I was jealous. Jealous of the way he looks at you, the way you make him feel seen, alive. Harold has not touched me in 2 years. I hated you because you had what I lost. Eliza sighed softly, took the notebook, flipped through the frantic handwriting. What do we do now? I asked. We fight, Eliza said. But the right way. She remembered a man, Reverend Thomas Gray, an old priest living deep in the northern woods, once a friend of her late husband. He owed her family a favour, and now it was time to repay it. If we could reach him, he could marry us legally. No one could accuse her afterward. We prepared before dawn. Eliza rode her grey mare, and I borrowed an old stallion from the neighbour. The trail cut through damp forest air, filled with the scent of fresh pine and sap. Midway, a wolf's howl echoed close, low, hungry. Eliza's horse reared, nearly throwing her off. I grabbed the reins and steadied her. On the slope ahead, the wolf appeared thin, silver-grey, eyes glowing. It watched us for a long moment, then turned and vanished into the woods. I stared after it, a strange feeling rising in my chest. Maybe it understood us, two creatures, fleeing a pack of predators that called themselves human. Reverend Thomas Gray's cabin was hidden among the old pines, and by the time we arrived, the sky was glowing with morning light. The small wooden house smelled of tobacco and old paper, but it held something I had not felt anywhere else: peace. The door creaked open, and the old reverend appeared, hair white as snow, hands trembling with age. "Eliza," he said softly, his voice gravelly, "are you sure you want to do this? Once it begins, there is no turning back." Eliza met his eyes, her gaze steady as steel. "Reverend, I have lived my whole life in fear. Now I want to live in truth." He turned to me, studying my face as if searching my soul. "Do you truly understand what you are choosing, Luke?" I nodded. "I do. I choose her, no matter the cost." The Reverend gave a sad smile and opened his Bible. His hands trembled slightly as he spoke, his voice deep and solemn in the wooden cabin. "Before God, the earth, and your own conscience, I ask, will you keep this woman all the days of your life?" "I will," I said. The morning light streamed through the window, wrapping Eliza's hair in a halo of silver. "And will you stand beside this man, in wealth and in poverty, in joy and in sorrow?" he asked her. Eliza smiled, tears shimmering. "I will." "You may kiss the bride," he said. I cupped her face and kissed her, slow, trembling, as if afraid the moment might disappear. "You are mine now," I whispered. "I have been yours," she said, "since the night you knocked on my door, but fate has never been gentle." When we returned home, they were waiting Harold Crane, Reverend Miller, and a dozen townspeople, their eyes like blades. "Well," Harold sneered, "where have you two been? A fine morning for sin, is it?" Eliza stepped down from her horse, holding up a folded parchment wrapped in leather. "Our marriage certificate, signed by Reverend Gray. Legal. None of you have any right to speak further." The crowd muttered. Reverend Miller frowned, and Harold's face drained of colour. "Ridiculous," he shouted. "You corrupted this boy, turned him into—" "I am not a boy," I interrupted. "I am her husband, and I stand here before all of you, unashamed." From the back, old Mr. Henderson, the storekeeper, cleared his throat. "Harold," he said slowly, "I asked the Territorial Survey Office to check. There is no silver vein under Miss Moore's land. There never was." The words fell like stones. The crowd fell silent. Those who had owed Harold, or believed him now, lowered their eyes before Eliza. Harold's face turned white. "You think this is over?" he roared. "It ended long ago," Eliza replied calmly. "You were just too blind to see it." He mounted his horse and rode off into the mist. No one in town ever spoke of him again. 5 years have passed since that morning. Now we live surrounded by sunlight and a garden full of lavender and sunflowers. The land that was once fought over now blooms with peace. I am 23, stronger and calmer than ever. Eliza's hair has turned greyer, but her eyes still hold the light that makes me forget the world. The townsfolk have changed, Or maybe time has simply worn away their cruelty. When we walk through the market, some even smile or nod. They may not understand, but at least they have stopped judging. Martha Crane visits sometimes. She left Harold after everything collapsed, taking her little daughter and starting over in the outskirts. When she comes, she sits with us on the porch, sipping Eliza's herbal tea. She smiles softly now, no longer the timid woman she once was. One evening, as the sun sank behind the hills, Eliza asked, "Do you ever wonder if we did the right thing?" I took her hand, rough and calloused, every line familiar to me. "I do not know what right even means anymore, Eliza," I said, "but I know what is true. And love, when it is real, is worth more than all the right things in the world." She leaned her head against my shoulder, eyes closed. I felt her heartbeat slow, steady, the most familiar sound in my life. In the garden, the tallest sunflower lifted its face toward the fading sky, glowing bright as fire. Eliza had planted it that first spring after we married. She once said, "Sunflowers live because they always follow the light, and I want us to do the same." Sometimes, in quiet afternoons when the wind slips through the window and sunlight paints the room gold, I find myself wondering, did we truly live the right way? Can the choices we made in the dark stand strong under daylight? I have no answer. All I know is this: love found me in a snowstorm when I was too cold and too tired to believe in life. Eliza opened her door, and instead of saving my body, she saved the part of my soul I thought had turned to stone. People once called us sinners. Maybe they were right. But if sin means loving someone with everything you have, with your wounds, your memories, your fear, then I will carry that sin forever. Because in the end, we lived. Not perfectly, not purely, but truthfully. And I think that is the only way humans are meant to live, by loving, even when love makes them tremble. If this story stirred something in you, hit like, subscribe, and share it, so that somewhere out there, hearts still dare to love, even when the world says they should not. 10.